What's that? What? Pre-construction? Oh, I haven't heard that in so long. What is happening in the world of pre-construction today on Real Talk? Today we have my sister Justine. Justine, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be on once again.
The topic for today is pre-construction. What is happening?
Well, this is one of my favorite topics because it is ever changing. So for the last two years ago, pre-construction was crazy. You couldn't buy a unit anywhere in the greater Toronto Hamilton area. And about 6 months ago, it really slowed down as people had that kind of fear with the interest rates, and there were a lot of people closing where the environment changed so much. But I'm excited to see that we're finally starting to see some developers pop off some new projects, and with really great pricing incentives. It seems like we needed this shift in the market to get everyone excited about this pre-construction once again.
Yeah, there was definitely a freeze where we didn't see any releases, and with some of the releases that we saw, there just weren't the sales to go along with it that were coming in 2021. What do you think was going on there, and what's kind of changed that have developers come out of their shell?
Well, I think developers, consumers were a little bit worried, and developers also wanted to make sure that their projects are a success, right?
Right.
Their name relies, name and the reputation relies on if they can have these projects come to fruition. So they're not going to sell if it's not going to be a successful launch, just like any other business, right? But now we're seeing the appetite from consumers is back, and we're seeing success as these projects are starting to launch and trickle in.
And what are some of the difficulties that developers are running into today? Even with some of that appetite coming back, we know that the releases haven't come in full-fledged like they were back in, say, 2021. So what are they still facing?
The overarching issue that we're hearing from developers across the board is labor. Construction is a really, really hard piece of the puzzle, and obviously an integral piece of the puzzle. But we're hearing from developers, they're basically taking laborers from one builder to another because there's just not enough people to build these projects that we so desperately need to solve this, housing supply issue that we have across our area.
Yeah, it's amazing. You can get the land, you can secure the rights to develop, you can get the plans in place, and then you can't get the labor. Exactly.
You're just
like
held
you
up.
said.
It's like all these projects have been held, even the ones that are under construction are held up. So then you have this kind of domino effect where you have, these people that have maybe sold their homes, if we're talking from an end user perspective, they sold their homes, they're kind of waiting, they're pushing up the rental market, and we're seeing these developments just stop and wait while we're waiting for laborers to come in.
And we don't really see any push or any sort of solution from the province to match the 1 million people coming in with the lack of developers being able to start all of these projects. So it just seems like a cyclical problem.
It's like a perfect storm right now in terms of getting these projects off the ground. I mean, the great news is they are still trying to work on this housing supply issue. So we're seeing housing start to increase again, and these projects launch, which will help hopefully with some of this immigration that we're seeing to get people into homes.
So we are seeing some of the appetite coming back for pre-construction. Certainly more of a buzz around the developments that are being released.
Yeah.
If you're a consumer, what would have you interested in buying pre-construction now versus last year? What's really changed? What's been the difference?
Well, I think that's really, if we're talking from an investor perspective, so let's start with that. A lot of the projects that we're launching here, one I'm super excited about is Carding House by Madame in Oakville. The investor is going to be super excited about that because you're buying it at 27% less than kind of the average sale price in Toronto for pre-construction, but your rental prices are basically the same. So you are going to maybe see a cash flow or cash neutral property, which is something we haven't been able to see for about a year. And for an end user, it's kind of that same thing. We're seeing the builders change the kind of units that are being created so that they are more affordable, and we're seeing parking being included, all these little incentives that really help consumers get excited from both the end user and investor perspective.
And you're seeing what I think is consumers gravitate towards more trusted developers.
Of course.
People that they've maybe worked with in the past, or they've seen successful developments in the area, and they're flocking towards those rather than newcomers in the business or smaller scale developers. What is it that consumers should be looking for in developers, and are there any that seem to be doing a better job than others? Or what are the big differences?
Yeah, well, I think you really nailed it home there is, you really want to find a builder that has a strong reputation and has proven success in the market, who has strong financial backing. Part of you know, who's going to succeed in this market is those who have the staying power, and those are the people that have, you know, years and years and years of experience, not the small players that are coming in to try and grab, you know, a little piece of the pie while the going's hot. So, you know, two local developers that I really love working with are Mattamy and New Horizons. They've been around forever. They have really high quality finishings. You know, you're not walking in and it feels like you're in like a cardboard box. And you know, those are the kind of things that you want to look for when you're working with a developer. And seriously, do like a Google search. It's something I always recommend doing if you're considering. I mean, work with a realtor who's worked with pre-construction. If you're just getting your search started, just do a quick Google search of who the developer is, because you'll find a news story right away. And there are horror stories with some developers.
Yeah, for me, the biggest difference is these more established developers honoring their agreements that they made. So, you know, let's say they sold all these units in a development today, and then in 6 months the market takes off. Well, the unscrupulous of the developers,
of course,
would pull the rug out from under, which we've seen in many cases in Hamilton, Burlington, and further out. And they're not honoring those contracts. So people are left, you know, 2 years holding the bag, and now they've got to jump back in the market. That's the biggest difference for me.
It's a huge difference. Can you imagine being so close to closing, being asked to put $100,000 extra down just to get this property, or you don't have a home? Like, I can't even fathom it.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. Anyway, that's it for today. Thank you very much for coming on. That's a lot of great info.
Thank you.